Hi, and welcome back to Purple Collar Life. I'm Chad, and in today's video, some of us are just gonna have to agree to disagree, because in today's video, we're talking about bar length on the chainsaw and long bars versus short bars when it comes to bucking firewood. And I know that my opinion might be different than a lot of you out there, but we're gonna talk about why I think a short bar is better for bucking than a long bar. I know it's going to be a debate. On the brand new MS261C chainsaw, I just put my Stihl Farm Boss 16-inch bar and a brand new 16-inch chain on for bucking up the rest of that oak tree. Now, I bought the saw with this 18-inch bar and chain because I already have a 20-inch bar and chain on my MS290. So you can see I've got 16, 18, and 20-inch chains available that'll fit on this MS261. And I want to point out, when I bought this, I did clarify to the Stihl dealership that I wanted to be able to use my existing bars and chains. So they made sure that I was using, when they gave me this 18-inch bar with chain, they chose the right chain pitch and width, because as you know, the newer chainsaws have a different width chain than our older MS290 and MS271 did. So that is a very important note. If you are buying a new chainsaw, like I just bought this new MS261, you do want to note to the Stihl dealership that you want to be able to use your old 0.325 inch chains. So they'll give you the right bar with the right spacing for the teeth and the right chain so that you can interchange bars and chains between all your Stihl chainsaws. It is a cold one here in northwest Pennsylvania tonight. You can see the flurries in the air. We're supposed to get 3 to 6 inches of snow tonight. I'm excited for it, ready to use the snow plow, ready to use the heated cab on the John Deere. Lots of fun times here in northwest Pennsylvania when it snows, as long as you have the right equipment. But for now, I need to throw some gloves on because I am getting cold already. It's only about 30 degrees outside. Well, I do really enjoy the snow. I like plowing snow. I don't even mind driving in the snow. The cold is starting to affect me more and more as I get older. It seems like cold feels colder. So it's only 30 degrees out today, but it feels to me like it's in the teens. So I've got the rest of the big section of tree here to cut up. And we've got these other 2 pieces of the Y down to the base of it. So you can see that stuff is all less than 16 inches that I need to cut through. So I've heard this debate for quite a while, and I actually saw a video recently of someone talking about this. And what I've heard some people say is you take a saw like this or a little bit bigger saw and you put a 26 or a 30-inch bar on it, and you buck your wood standing with a straight back using basically the tip of the bar at a perfect length so that you're not bending over, and you make your cuts down the tree standing upright like this. And you've got that 26, 25, 30-inch of bar and chain that keeps you from having to bend over. And I get it. I see the point of that. It definitely would be easier on your back. But I think there's a lot of negatives to using a longer bar than you need to. My opinion, like I said, leave those comments down below why you think I'm wrong about this or why you agree with me about this. My opinion is just use the length you need to cut through the wood. So when I start cutting this log, yes, I will be down here, my back will be bent, my knees may even be bent, but I will be keeping the dogs, these teeth, the dogs, in the wood so that my motor, the power head, is as close as possible to the wood. Not the tip of the bar, not the tip of the chain cutting through the wood, but as close as possible to the power head of the chainsaw, keeping the dogs engaged with the wood the entire time. Now let me tell you a couple reasons why that is. Let's talk about my view of safety first. So my personal opinion, and I've read discussions both ways, is that it's safer to use a shorter bar with less chain. So imagine this. If you have a 25 or a 30-inch bar and you're standing up like this, now I will throw chaps on before I start cutting, but let's say we're cutting now, that's a lot more exposed chain and exposed bar that's all the way down there. If the chain breaks, if I slip, if something happens, in my mind, that's a lot more teeth that could make contact with my leg, my foot, my body in some way. The other thing I like about a short bar and chain is I'm in a lot of control. It is close to me, yes, so some people will say, well, you've got that danger zone close to you, but the danger zone is always going to be here. It's just, is it only going to be here, or is it also going to be another 16 inches down the road further out? The other thing I like about a short chain is I'm engaged with the wood here, not down in the kickback area of the tip. So as we know, the tip is where the kickback most often happens. And I know some people will say the longer bar with a longer chain is decreased with the risk of kickback. In my mind, I like to keep the chain as short as possible, moving as fast as possible, and keep the tip away from the edge of the wood unless I have to have it in there. The other nice thing about a shorter bar and chain, less chance of it getting down in the dirt as I'm cutting. The longer my bar is, if I'm cutting, I've got all this extra bar that could be hitting rocks, dirt, whatever's out there in my way. So for me, those are a couple reasons. It's also a lot easier to sharpen, less teeth on a shorter bar and chain, less expensive for a shorter bar and chain. And like I said, I just don't think that unless you're cutting something really big, it makes sense to use the longer bar and chain. Another thing that I think about is operator fatigue. One of the reasons I really wanted this MS261 is because of the light weight of it. So it's nice and easy. I can use it longer without getting tired. The longer the bar, sometimes the longer power head, the more powerful power head you need, which has more weight up front, but also the longer bar, the more you're controlling weight further out. So I think it increases fatigue. So yes, I've used a 20-inch bar, and I don't think there's a huge difference between 16 and 20. But when you start talking about 25, 30-inch bar for doing your bucking, in my mind, that's too much bar for the wood that I have to cut. So while the chainsaw warms up a little bit here, let's just talk, just in this example. If I were using the longer bar and standing and bucking, yes, I could cut through the wood maybe without bending my back, but you can see there's other stuff out here that the tip of my bar could catch on accidentally. There could be rocks underneath there that I don't see what I'm going down towards. So for me, keeping the dogs in the wood, staying closer to the wood I'm cutting is safer, in addition to those other benefits of using the shorter bar and chain. Well, I got down the biggest section of the red oak as far as I can get. It gets a little thick there in the tops. I'll have to do some cleaning out before I cut more of that wood. We still have the smaller piece, the whole length, so I'm going to cut it next. But I'm anxious to know what you guys thought after watching me cut that section, if it makes sense to you. So I think there's an economic benefit: shorter bar, shorter chain, less chains to sharpen, less cost for a saw because you don't need as big of a saw to run a 16, 18, or 20-inch bar as you do to run a 25 or 30-inch bar. But then also the safety factor of keeping the dogs in the wood, keeping the tip of the saw not way down far away from you, keeping the chain shorter so that if it would break, it's less chain flying around, but also less exposed chain that could make contact with your toe, your ankle, your leg, make contact with a rock further out, another limb further out, any of those things that could cause a kickback. So just my thoughts on why a shorter bar, at least for me, and I know opinions will vary, at least for me, a shorter bar is safer and more economical than a long bar. I know some people like Buck and Billy Ray will say stand and buck. Sorry, Buck and Billy Ray, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on this one. Now, like I said in the beginning, we're just going to have to agree to disagree because I know some of you have strong feelings about using that longer bar and standing while bucking. My feelings are just different than that. So in my mind, keeping the dogs in the wood, using a shorter bar and a shorter chain and a smaller, lighter saw are the advantages for safety and economy that I prefer when bucking firewood on my land. So I'm anxious to read those comments down below. Kind of like a little bit of a survey. How many of you think longer bar, longer chain for bucking that wood while standing versus shorter bar, shorter chain, just what you need, leaving the dogs in the wood? I'm anxious to read those comments down below. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you found it informative and entertaining, please give us a big thumbs up down below. We'd really appreciate it. If you're not already a subscriber, we're getting closer and closer to that 20,000 subscriber mark. I'd love to get there by the end of the year. It's going to be a tall task to make that happen, but you guys can definitely help. If you've been watching and enjoying our videos and haven't yet clicked that subscribe button, we'd really appreciate if you would click the subscribe button so that you get notified when we put out new videos, and you can follow along on our tractor, chainsaw, firewood, log splitter, rural living adventures here at Purple Collar Life. Thanks for watching. We hope to see you again the next time. Have a great day. Oh, and I did want to mention one other thing. I am absolutely loving this Stihl MS261C saw. We've still got a video coming up about why I chose the C versus the regular 261 and my thoughts on having the 290, the 271, and 261. Just a little bit of a spoiler, the 271 is currently listed for sale because with the 261 and the 290, I really just don't need 3 saws in the same range, and the 271 of the 3 was my least favorite. Not that I didn't like it, it's just my least favorite of these 3 saws. Thanks for watching. See you again the next time.